this computer. Hi, everyone. Hi, Steve Almond.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for helping us escape our own minds and imprisoned houses for this moment of inspiration from Steve Almond.
Well, okay, that's overselling. I'm going to underdeliver. That's my job. But I'm happy also to be escaping my family. I have a reason to lock the door to my office. My children cannot bug me, so I'm
It
all
looks
yours.
like it's still open to me, Steve.
No, that is the bathroom.
Oh.
That is the tiny bathroom that is in my tiny little office in my tiny little downstairs tiny house. Yeah, so it's very luxurious. You're seeing short stories have bought everything you can see.
Having an office with ensuite bathroom, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm living the dream.
How have you been managing overall?
Yeah, I would say overall there have been no homicides in the Almond house, and I am not sure how long I'll be able to say that, and so things are great.
Well, we'll take it, and we appreciate you throwing us a line and sharing with us something that has given you solace in literature. I'm very happy to do that, but before I turn it over to you, I want to read a short line from William Stoner and the Battle for the Inner Life.
Ah,
Do you know
okay.
this author? By Steve
I,
Almond.
I know that you're one of about 12 people who has that book, so
Oh,
bless you.
it's an amazing book, and we're going to put a link to it at the end of this podcast to buy it at the tattered cover because it's outstanding. But I'm just going to read this one paragraph that struck me during this time.
Okay.
It hadn't occurred to me that the story of every life is, from a cosmic perspective, one of obscurity. You are alive for some brief span, then you die. The great mirage of human consciousness is that our striving deeds will render us immortal. It might be said that I had confused literature with history, which serves as the de facto press office for the infamous. This confusion redounded to my own ambitions. I wanted from literature to be known by the world. I had missed the point. Literature exists to help people know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Top that, Steve Almond.
I will top it by a wide margin, but I will also say that this is why that line about like you're alive and then you die, this is why William Stone and Battle for the Inner Life is just a unanimous critics pick as a beach read. I want to read a book where the guy just tells me I'm going to die and whatever I did isn't really going to matter. It's like, that's my beach read. So you're welcome, beach goers.
And thank you. And I'm going to switch the view so we can just focus on you and what you have to say now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to shock you by actually reading from Stoner itself. And this is my favorite paragraph from a book in which like I have ridiculously studied all the paragraphs. In fact, I was out at Lighthouse teaching a 2-day seminar, writers reading books. What's that series called, Andrea? It's so wonderful.
It's Reading as a Writer.
Reading as a Writer. And like I've told you this, we were meeting, I think, for a couple of days for 4 or 6 hours a day to talk about Stoner. And literally we had just gotten started when it was the end of day 2. It was like, wait, where did all those hours go? So it's by way of saying Stoner's a book that, bears really close investigation. And every time I read it, it gets me new out of it. But I always circle back to this paragraph, which is really just like been a companion of mine and is the best definition of what love is, which is right now something that everybody's got to really like is as awful as all this is. The one unassailable good thing that's happening is people are clearing away all the accessories and extra stuff, and they are getting down to what matters, which is basically, the people you love and the people that love you. So here's Stoner having finally been granted in his miserable life a beautiful affair, and then we get this. In his extreme youth, Stoner had thought of love as an absolute state. I'm sorry, I'm going to start again because I don't want to mess it up. It's such a beautiful paragraph. In his extreme youth, Stoner had thought of love as an absolute state of being to which, if one were lucky, one might find access. In his maturity, he had decided it was the heaven of a false religion toward which one ought to gaze with an amused disbelief, a gently familiar contempt, and an embarrassed nostalgia. Now, in his middle age, he began to know that it was neither a state of grace nor an illusion. He saw it as a human act of becoming, a condition that was invented and modified moment by moment and day by day by the will and the intelligence and the heart, which I think is pretty successfully topped my little paragraph. You're going to die. Nobody's going to remember. And what I love about that sentiment is, love is a weird, squishy word. Everybody's got a different definition. My definition is it's really paying attention to the world. But this definition I love because it's suggesting something that I think people are really discovering as they have stripped away from their lives a lot of the extra stuff and the professional identity and the world outside their home, and they have to return to a much smaller circle, hopefully of beloved people that they interact with in their homes and virtually, which is what is love? How do we make it? It is not something that you just get or is bestowed on you in the movies by a wonderful airbrushed kiss. It's a human act of becoming. It is something you construct and work on with somebody else moment by moment, day by day, and you have to use all of your intelligence and your patience and your emotional state to kind of continue to perfect it. And it's never perfect, but it is something that we make rather than something we are given. And I love that idea because, like, right now, people are really like, if your house is anything like my house, people are on edge. They're worried, they're anxious, and they're disordered. And we sort of need to remember that love isn't something that's either there or not. It's something that we have to work to create between ourselves, especially when we're under a lot of pressure and stressed out and worried, and our lives aren't like they used to be.
That is words of wisdom from Steve Almond. I think the paragraph I chose, not to be defensive, but I think it pointed in a similar direction, but also put in that kind of toolbox that you were mentioning, literature as a way of helping ourselves cultivate that love.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm finding is there's lots of terrible things about this, but it's also people have more time to strip it down to the studs and say what's really important to me. And people I'm finding are needing writing classes and reading and literature because that is where people go to know themselves. They might not identify it as that's what happening, but that is what's happening. I keep reading Stoner over and over and over again because I want to figure out what is going on with my life and what it means. And this book, like all great books, has a lot of good wisdom about that and makes you feel less alone with the crazy and more of a sense of really understanding the stuff that matters, which isn't how much you're broadcasting yourself into the world or what you achieve, but like how well are you being an observer of your own life. So that's part of the reason why I feel like places like Lighthouse are going to actually be vital in this time in a way that might have been taken for granted previously, because people still need that. They need it now more than ever.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you stepped up and have offered to teach a class for us that's kind
Right.
of the moment,
Yeah.
writing in the time of COVID-19, doubt,
Yeah.
disequilibrium, kind of following along, that is some of your terrain as a
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah. So, I mean, that class it's sort of, so uh, we don't like doubt. People are paid, zillions of dollars to sound sure of themselves. And it's the surest trademark of the demented and the fascistic is I know exactly the answer, but we cling to it. We want to know, we don't want to live with doubt because it's confusing and anxiety causing and destabilizing, and disequilibrium we despise. So we avoid that at all costs, and we do our yoga breath and all the rest of it. And I get it as civilians, but for writers, doubt and disequilibrium are really your central, engines. A good novel does not start with a character who knows exactly what's going on in their lives and nothing eventful happens. Like literally, disequilibrium is the most interesting part. It's the instigator of every story, novel, essay, and so forth. So the class is just going to basically ask people to think about doubt and disequilibrium as your allies, and the moments and eras in your life where things felt out of control and uncertain, not as something to hide away or deny or step away from or pathologize, but to have a forgiving approach and say, actually, whatever that summer was where things were out of control is the most interesting story you have to tell, whether it's in fictional disguise or not. That's when things were really dangerous. And that's what people turn to literature for. Like, I don't want to hear about anybody's success and how they worked it out. Ugh. I want to hear about when people were, struggling, because that story I know. So that's what we'll do.
Well, that's wonderful. We appreciate it so much, and we're sending all our good vibes and energy to the Almond household as
Okay,
we
good. We
navigate.
need it. We need it.
Great. So we'll leave information about ordering Steve's books, because there are like, I don't know, 20 of them. 20 or 30 books
Yeah.
of Steve's.
They're just tiny and they're getting smaller. Eventually, I will just have a single page that I will be publishing. Here it is. Almond's new page is
It'll
out.
be beautiful too. It'll be beautiful. And we'll also send links to your class, and then we're gonna see you one way or the other for Lip Fest.
I'm super psyched, and I really am so, like, one tiny little wonderful byproduct is that, because I love Lighthouse and the students I get to do, so I get to do another class, and that's like that's one of the dates on my little calendar of despair that's like got a big red heart, so I'm psyched for it.
Same here. You're hearted on our calendar too. Thank you and best wishes, and we'll all stay in touch.
Okay, take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.